Most liked comment gets pinned. Let's see who wins. Good luck.
It was awkward. Let's have another look at it.
A duchess pulling up to Fashion Week is supposed to flip the whole vibe upside down. Cameras flashing, editors scrambling, pure chaos in the best way. But at the Balenciaga front row, the loudest sound wasn't cheers or applause. It was whispers, and those whispers carried something heavy, something tense, something that made the whole room feel tight from the jump. From the outside, it looked like the perfect comeback scene for Meghan Markle. Flash popping, lights bouncing off her sharp black heels. The entrance magazines dream about putting on a cover, but insiders inside that room were painting a totally different picture, and the contrast was impossible to miss. Stylists later claimed that when Meghan stepped in, the temperature shifted instantly.
I mean, yeah, the children were posed with teddy bears dressed in bondage-style gear.
What?
It was predatory, and Meghan Markle is accepting an award as Humanitarian of the Year on Thursday for protecting children online. She shouldn't be promoting a brand accused of predatory.
Cold smiles, no cheek kisses, no warm greetings. One person even whispered it felt like eyes were just watching and judging her, not welcoming her, saying it felt like people were staring, not embracing. That's a different kind of energy. It didn't feel like a fashion icon making a power move. It felt like suspicion hanging in the air. And in Paris, silence can speak louder than a packed crowd screaming. The photographers did their job, sure, but some people said the energy felt low, almost bored. Editors who normally rush celebrities for selfies allegedly kept their distance, like nobody wanted to be caught standing too close. One insider said the body language told the whole story. People looked cautious, careful, almost calculating about where they stood. In an industry built on who stands next to who, that matters. Meghan suddenly seemed untouchable, and not in a glamorous way. Not because of headlines, not because of drama, just...
How are you protecting children when you are promoting a brand that was accused of inappropriate behavior towards them?
Now, look, it's not being received well, certainly not as well as maybe she would have hoped, with some people labeling it a Zoolander war.
Awkward vibes, according to chatter backstage. Then came the rumor that really set tongues wagging. Backstage talk started hinting that her presence was difficult, and not because of attitude, but because of something more personal. Some people allegedly began talking about her aura, and then it got more specific. Her smell. A few claimed it was cheap perfume layered over stress, while another whispered the glam team looked drained, spraying everything they could to fix it, even joking, "You can't fix that."
She went round Paris in this car. She had her heels kicked up, and you can see that. A lot of people criticized her because she went near the tunnel where Diana was tragically killed. I'm not sure that was deliberate, but it's a lot of people criticized that.
It's important to say, well, these were rumors flying around, not confirmed facts, but the gossip moved fast. Whether exaggerated or not, by the end of the night, the chatter had drowned out the runway itself. Designers debuted looks that should have owned headlines, but instead, people were talking about Meghan in Paris. Scandal can fade, bold moves can get respect, but hygiene rumors in fashion circles, that can turn into social exile real quick. And just when that wasn't enough, another detail reportedly made insiders raise eyebrows. In fashion, clothes speak before you do. Sources claimed her outfit pieces weren't custom couture gifts, but borrowed samples, with tags still attached.
Well, I think you've got to get the princess pouch, don't you? You've got to work on that. Brilliant Ben Stiller movie and those glorious moments as they strut their stuff, all sorts of things. And people come with their own prejudices about the megalomania, as I call it each time.
No exclusive tailoring, no made for her moment. That's a quiet but sharp signal in elite spaces. Top celebrities often receive gifted designer looks because brands want their name tied to star power. But according to whispers, Meghan allegedly didn't get that treatment this time, meaning everything had to go back after the show. One stylist even reportedly said Balenciaga didn't crown her, they tolerated her. That line spread quickly, though again, it remains insider talk, not official confirmation. Still, Meghan kept her chin up, smiling, posing, serving confidence like she owned the city. For the cameras, she looked polished and poised. But people behind the scenes insisted Paris wasn't fully buying the fairy tale. Some claimed the glamorous Duchess image didn't match what they felt backstage. Instead of being styled like royalty, they said she looked more like a placeholder. And in fashion, that's a loud message without anyone saying a word. The gap between between expectation and reality felt huge. Meghan appeared to want a rebirth moment, a reset, a statement. But according to The Buzz, Paris gave her something else.
Also, this is the same town that her mother-in-law passed away in. Prince Harry says it was due to paparazzi, and Meghan's literally chasing these flashbulbs throughout the city. And then, she's 1 mile away in that video from where Princess Diana, had her last breath, lost her life.
A reality check that stung more than any bad review, and the whispers didn't stay inside the venue. When she left, a new rumor started circulating. Darker, stranger, more emotional. After the show, most assumed her car would slip quietly into the night. Instead, word spread that her route allegedly passed through the Alma Tunnel, in the same location tied to Princess Diana's tragic accident. Some brushed it off as coincidence, but one fashion journalist reportedly said, "In this city, nothing is coincidence." Her team quickly responded, pushing back hard. They stated Meghan didn't know the historical significance of the location, and that it was simply the fastest route back to her hotel. Clear, direct, firm. Still, longtime royal watchers weren't convinced so easily. Over the years, former friends have claimed she studied Princess Diana's life closely. Some even alleged she rewatched the funeral footage repeatedly, treating it like research. Others said she read royal biographies deeply, highlighting details and memorizing timelines. None of that proves intent, of course. But when history, symbolism, and public image collide in Paris, people are going to talk, and talk they did. So the big question exploded everywhere. How could she not know? One commentator asked, "This is a woman who knows her symbols." And that tunnel? That's one of the most loaded symbols in modern royal history. Online communities picked it up instantly, and the internet moved the way it always does when drama hits. Fast and loud. TikTok edits started popping up within hours. Clips of Meghan's car driving through the Alma Tunnel were placed side by side with footage connected to Princess Diana's final night, all set to haunting music that made everything feel heavier. The edits didn't accuse directly, but the implication was clear and powerful. On X, hashtags trended hard. Some users called her bold, others called it calculated. One post that spread everywhere read, "It's one thing to admire Diana, it's another to cosplay her tragedy." That line caught fire. It turned quiet skepticism into full-blown outrage mixed with disbelief. The exact kind of viral reaction no PR team can fully control once it takes off. For Paris, the moment hit like an emotional shockwave. The city adored Diana. For many locals, her memory still feels sacred, almost untouchable. The Alma Tunnel isn't just concrete and traffic there, it represents grief, history, respect. Local tabloids ran headlines questioning motives, while international outlets chose their words carefully, speculating without outright accusing. But even cautious language can raise loud doubts. Some reports hinted the drive might not have been accidental. One paper wrote it was careful not to accuse, but unwilling to dismiss. That gray area made everything more explosive. Behind the scenes, fashion insiders reportedly started connecting dots, whispering about strategy and long-term image moves. Why risk symbolism this heavy? Why keep linking yourself to Diana's legacy again and again? One editor allegedly told colleagues, "It's not branding, it's obsession." That quote circulated quickly, adding more heat to an already tense situation. According to critics, the Paris trip wasn't just about fashion headlines. They argued it looked like an attempt to reshape the Diana narrative, one carefully timed moment at a time. But the irony felt sharp because instead of admiration, the comparisons reminded people of the gap that still exists between legacy and perception. Meanwhile, longtime Diana supporters reacted emotionally. Comment sections filled up fast. Some posts were blunt. Diana was loved. Meghan is pretending. Others pointed toward Prince Harry, questioning how he could be comfortable with something tied to such a painful memory. One viral comment read, "If Harry cries when he talks about that tunnel, how could she treat it like a photo op?" That line alone sparked thousands of replies. By the end of Fashion Week, Meghan's Paris appearance wasn't about couture anymore. It wasn't about designers or front row politics. It became about a car ride, a tunnel, and the shadow of a princess whose legacy still shapes public emotion decades later. But the tension didn't stop there. The next wave of criticism wasn't about symbolism or rumors. It was about hypocrisy, or at least what critics called hypocrisy, hiding in plain sight. For years, Meghan has said she was targeted by harsh media coverage. She warned that press pressure could repeat history history. She and Harry spoke openly about fearing the same destructive patterns that surrounded Diana. Cameras, headlines, constant scrutiny. They described it as dangerous. Then Paris pushed attention toward a detail many people had forgotten. When people looked closer at history, they remembered something uncomfortable. While British tabloids carried much of the public blame after Diana's death, the most haunting images from that night were reportedly purchased and aired by an American network, CBS. And that's where the contradiction talks started heating up, because years later, Prince Harry and Meghan chose CBS for their explosive primetime interview. The same network became the home of their grievances, broadcast globally in a carefully produced special. Commentators quickly pointed out the connection. How do you condemn the press for exploiting tragedy? One media analyst asked, and then give exclusives to the very network that profited from it? That question spread fast because it hit a nerve. Some reports even claimed that people in Harry's circle were uneasy at the time. Friends allegedly warned him that sitting down with CBS could reopen painful chapters and bring old wounds back into the spotlight. Whether those warnings were serious or casual, the narrative stuck, but the interview moved forward anyway. Oprah Winfrey's cameras rolled, and the network that once turned Diana's final hours into massive ratings now aired Harry and Meghan's story to millions around the world. To supporters, it was reclaiming their voice. To critics, it looked like contradiction. And just like that, the Paris whispers turned into something bigger. Not just fashion drama, not just symbolism, but a full-blown debate about memory, media, and motive. For critics, this wasn't just irony. They said it looked like hypocrisy, broadcast straight into millions of homes, locked into primetime forever. Online audiences caught the connection instantly. Reddit threads started pulling receipts fast. Users posted old CBS headlines from the 1990s, right next to clips from Meghan's Oprah interview. One viral comment read, "She blames tabloids for Diana's suffering, but works with a company that showed her last breaths. How do you explain that?" That question didn't stay in a small corner of the internet. It spread across platforms, pushing a narrative that Meghan's public victim story felt curated instead of consistent. Industry insiders reportedly noticed the mood shift too. One Hollywood publicist told Variety, "Authenticity sells, hypocrisy kills." In their opinion, the CBS partnership marked a turning point where Meghan's credibility began slipping. And when the Paris whispers dragged Diana's memory back into the spotlight again, critics argued that credibility took another hit. Suddenly, people weren't just debating outfits or travel routes. They were questioning integrity. Then more reports began circulating. Some claim Meghan's speeches and humanitarian messaging were often shaped by teams behind the scenes. Others described projects as recycled versions of ideas already floating around. Former staff accounts shared in media reports portrayed her as demanding yet unclear, a leader without firm direction. These claims remain disputed, but combined with the CBS conversation, they fueled the perception problem. Once critics connected the dots, CBS, Paris, the symbolism, they said the pattern felt harder to ignore. They described an image-focused duchess, deeply aware of perception, yet inconsistent with messaging. And Paris didn't just reveal that tension, according to observers. It amplified it loudly. Because when fashion houses choose who sits front row, it's not just about fame, it's about cultural influence, credibility, alignment. Insiders claimed what they sensed around Meghan wasn't glamour, it was contradiction. And in fashion, perception is currency. That realization pushed the story into its next phase. If the CBS connection represented alleged hypocrisy, the fashion world's reaction looked like something even colder. Rejection from the very industry Meghan was believed to be trying to reconnect with. By the third day of Paris Fashion Week, the conversation had fully shifted. It wasn't about her outfit anymore. It wasn't even about the tunnel. Insiders reportedly started calling it the cold shoulder. Designers who normally compete for celebrity visibility appeared distant. Observers noted awkward gaps in photos. One photographer allegedly said, "I've never seen a duchess stand alone for so long in a lobby." That quote made rounds quickly. When the images hit social media, they spread almost instantly. Meghan kept her chin raised, cameras flashing all around her, poised and composed. But people online focused on one detail: no major fashion power players standing beside her. And in fashion, who stands next to you says everything about your status. Users began posting side-by-side comparisons. Meghan seated in borrowed Balenciaga pieces next to Rihanna wrapped in custom couture. Zendaya embraced by Valentino. Kim Kardashian surrounded by Balenciaga's creative team. The captions were sharp. One read, "One of these women was invited. The other borrowed the invite." That line went viral. Memes flooded timelines with hashtags like #EmptyChairEnergy and #BorrowedCouture. Suddenly, Paris, the city of light, cast Meghan into the internet's shadow. It was brutal. Even fashion blogs that usually keep things polite started publishing subtle but pointed critiques. A French editor wrote, "Paris does not reward pretense. Clothes must fit the spirit, not just the body." Another insider described her look as assembled, not bestowed, which in fashion language can carry weight. Those aren't casual comments. In that world, they're coded daggers, because being seen as trying too hard can sting worse than being ignored. And the Diana Tunnel whispers added emotional charge to the fashion narrative, making everything feel heavier. Fans began posting old clips of Prince Harry speaking about trauma, edited side by side with footage of Meghan posing in Paris. One viral TikTok caption read, "He cries, she poses." The clip pulled millions of views in less than 24 hours, showing just how quickly perception can shift online. Some commentators took it further. They argued Paris didn't just reject an outfit, it rejected symbolism. One culture critic wrote, "Diana was authenticity in motion. Meghan is simulation in still frame." Paris saw the difference. That comparison hit hard because it framed the debate as something deeper than fashion. Supporters, of course, pushed back, calling the backlash exaggerated and unfair. But critics stayed loud. To them, Paris wasn't just a fashion week moment gone awkward. It was a spotlight. And under that spotlight, every past decision, partnership, and symbol came rushing back for review. And in an industry obsessed with image, once doubt enters the frame, it doesn't leave quietly. It wasn't just about fashion anymore. Critics said it became about identity and credibility. The backlash reportedly spread beyond designers, with whispers that other celebrities were quietly advised to keep their distance. One stylist claimed they overheard a PR manager say, "Being seen too close is a risk right now." In an industry built on alliances and power circles, that kind of distancing hits hard. For someone whose brand leaned heavily on connections, proximity equals influence. Losing that closeness can mean losing leverage. And online, the irony cut even deeper. Some supporters who once defended Meghan against the monarchy started second-guessing themselves. One viral post read, "Maybe the firm saw something we didn't." That comment pulled in tens of thousands of likes, signaling a shift from sympathy to skepticism. That emotional turn marked a major narrative change. According to critics, Meghan wasn't just losing Paris, she was losing public momentum. By the peak of Fashion Week, the biggest spectacle wasn't on the runway, it was the growing sense that her once polished image looked like it was cracking in real time. And when Paris pulls back the glamour, the world watches closely. The city has a reputation for deciding who rises and who fades in culture. What followed reportedly felt even colder. After the lights dimmed and photographers packed up, insiders claimed Meghan was left with something she never came for. Silence. Not applause, not admiration, not even outrage. Just quiet rejection from an industry that seemed to have already shifted its focus. And in fashion, silence can be brutal. Reports suggested her team moved quickly after the show, trying to secure brand meetings. But according to insiders, doors that once opened easily didn't move this time. One source allegedly told Page 6, "Nobody wants to be the one to take that risk, not after Paris." That quote summed up the mood. Cautious, distant, colder than expected. This was never just about one outfit or one tunnel drive. Critics framed it as a credibility issue. Fashion houses operate on cultural capital, and some insiders claimed the Paris trip appeared to drain hers instead of boosting it. That perception, fair or not, spread fast. Fans noticed the tonal shift immediately. Comment sections that once overflowed with heart emojis turned sarcastic and sharp. One viral meme showed her in borrowed couture with the caption, "Returned by Monday." The internet ran with it. On TikTok, hashtags like #ParisExposed trended for days, showing how quickly admiration can flip into mockery online. For someone whose public image was built on global praise, that pivot felt intense. The attention was still there, but the tone had changed completely. She came for validation and left with humiliation, one user wrote. That comment alone captured the mood circulating across platforms. Even in Hollywood circles, whispers reportedly began. Some commentators speculated that if major fashion houses weren't publicly aligning with her, studios and streaming platforms might grow hesitant too. One media analyst told The Wrap, if you can't command loyalty in fashion, you risk looking like a liability in film and TV. That warning sounded serious. The speculation felt heavier after reports surfaced that Spotify had cooled its partnership and Netflix had adjusted expectations. No major new global deals appeared immediately visible. While supporters argue these shifts are normal in entertainment cycles, critics tied them directly to the Paris moment. Suddenly, Fashion Week didn't look isolated. It looked symbolic, a signal to the broader entertainment industry. Culturally, Paris carries weight. The city has crowned icons for decades. Princess Diana photographed at the Ritz, Rihanna glowing in Dior, Audrey Hepburn captured along the Seine. But Paris also has a reputation for exposing anyone seen as forcing the spotlight instead of earning it. One French columnist bluntly wrote, "Paris forgives scandal, but it never forgives imitation." That line echoed across blogs and social feeds because it summed up the week's tension in one sharp sentence. Instead of reinventing herself, critics argued, Meghan had reminded people of what she wasn't, and that contrast became the headline. For Prince Harry, the fallout reportedly felt personal too. Photos surfaced days later showing him looking subdued back in California. Online speculation exploded, with users asking whether he understood the symbolism critics attached to the tunnel drive, or whether he once again found himself defending controversy he didn't create. None of that is confirmed, but perception online moves faster than facts. Either way, the narrative cracks looked visible to everyone watching. The Duchess, who once seemed untouchable, now stood in a harsh public glare with mystique fading under scrutiny. And that's where the irony hit hardest. Paris didn't leave Meghan with the legacy reset some believe she was aiming for. She arrived hoping for a glamorous comeback. What followed were whispers, memes, and heavy silence. The city gave her attention, just not the kind she likely wanted. And when Paris shifts its mood, the ripple effect travels fast. If one borrowed outfit and one controversial drive could reshape the conversation this dramatically, many began wondering what happens next when Hollywood turns the spotlight back her way. The real question now isn't about 1 week in France. It's about whether perception can pivot back, or whether Paris marked a permanent turning point in how culture sees Meghan Markle.